Hello, my name is Samuel George London, and welcome to Comics for the Apocalypse. On today's episode, I speak to comic book artist, writer, and fantastically fun person, Sarah Millman, about what comics she would take into the apocalypse. But before we get into it, if you do enjoy the show, please leave a review for us on iTunes or whichever podcast service you use, as not only will it let me know that you liked it, but I believe it helps make other people aware of the show as well. Now, without further ado, on with the show. Hello, Sarah.
Hello, how's it going?
Oh, well, thanks. Yourself?
Yeah, I'm all right, thank you.
How was Christmas?
Oh, it was great. Like very relaxing. I'm finding it difficult to kind of get back to work now, like
Yeah,
inching into 2019. But
it's tough to get back
yeah.
into it, but kind of, after a couple of weeks, we'll be back into it. This is just the first full week
I
of work,
know.
isn't it? So, yeah, it's early days. It's early days, for sure.
How was yours?
Yeah, it was good. For the listeners' sake, we've kind of done a bit of the Christmas New Year's stuff beforehand, but yeah, no,
Shh, don't spoil it.
yeah, don't spoil the
This is on you.
veneer. Exactly,
No,
this is
don't ruin
totally
it.
professional. Yeah, that's right. But yeah, as I was kind of saying before, busy Christmas, but very quiet New Year.
Mm,
So it's good, and getting back into the swing of work as well.
yeah,
Always a grind the first full week back at work, but it's all good.
yeah.
All good in the hood. Well, firstly, Sarah Millman, thank you for being our very first guest on Comics for the Apocalypse.
No pressure.
How are you feeling about that?
Well, you sent me the questions, and I was like, "Oh, it's fine. I'm sure I'll be, I'll be in the middle of some other people, and I'll just put what I like." And now it's like, "Nope, you're the first one. You're setting the bar."
Yeah,
And
exactly. I'm
no
really
pressure.
looking forward to it, and for all the listeners. So, um, I first met Sarah, and I don't know if you remember this, last year at True Believers. Actually,
Yes.
kind of, I was just starting my first Kickstarter,
Mm.
Milford Green, and I came to one of your panels,
Oh yeah.
and had some really good insights, and I was kind of pimping my Kickstarter afterwards.
Mm.
Basically to you, but
You
then kind of
smashed it though. I remember. It was brilliant.
yeah, we did all right, and you
Mm.
were very helpful in helping kind of putting finishing touches on Milford Green, so I
Mm.
really appreciate that.
Oh, it was a pleasure. It was
Really
great.
kind, really kind. And then it was what was it? Maybe 2 or 3 months later than the Little Heroes
Oh
anthology
yeah.
came about, and yeah, we're collaborators in Little Heroes anthology number
Mm.
two, which is great. Nice little story, the tales of the chemo monster.
Oh, it was
Um,
lush.
yeah, I really enjoyed that. I thought that was
Mm,
great,
me
and
too.
the art was just perfect. Yeah,
Thank
when
you.
you came up as kind of you were keen to help out with that story, I just thought perfect, amazing. You can get it any better.
Oh, thanks.
Brilliant.
Well, you gave me a lot to work with, so
Oh, that's good. That's
that's
good to
great.
hear. Fantastic. And before we get into the nitty gritty of the comics for the apocalypse, where can people find you?
It's probably best to find me. I'm most active on Twitter, so my handle is heart underscore of underscore time, and my name is Milmo on that. So yeah, I'm on www.heartoftime.co.uk as well. So that like links to everything that I do. So yeah, that's where I am.
Amazing. Perfect. Well, getting into it, the very first question that everybody on Comics for the Apocalypse is asked is, what type of apocalypse would you like to be in?
So like is a very strong word, I
Yeah, yeah,
would
yeah.
say, in relation to an apocalypse. Uh,
So yeah, for the
I'm not
listeners,
gonna lie.
there's a second question there. Or what type of apocalypse do you think you would survive
Okay.
in,
Oh,
and why?
see, yeah, I'm gonna be boring and probably say anything that involves like a bunker or having to live like, in seclusion, because I feel like I live in an attic space anyway by myself. So I'm like, yeah, I could deal without people, but obviously after a long time it would drive you a little bit insane. So I think I'm going to be quite boring and just say zombie. You know,
Go zombie.
I think zombie, yeah, because especially the slow type zombies, because
We're not doing 28 days later zombies
yeah,
because
yeah,
that's just asking for trouble. Like if they can run faster than you, it's
no,
it's just
no,
over, isn't it? In a
like
week.
Shaun of the Dead zombies, when at the end everyone kind of gets over it and they kind of use them in in game shows. That one, that'll
That's
do.
fine. And the trolley pickers as well. Yeah, isn't
Yeah,
it? They have at the end
yeah,
there. Oh,
that's all
fantastic.
right. I think I'd be quite good at making myself a little like bunker den that I could survive through the worst of it, and then when
Where
it's
would
kind
you
of
go?
settled
Where would
down,
be the first place that you'd go?
what to
So
like
yeah,
as a
so
base.
zombies. You've discovered zombies are a thing.
Mm.
You're at home. Do you stay at home? Do you go somewhere else? What do you do?
Um, yeah, I think I'd stay at home because I don't live like in the center of a city.
Mm,
I'm like in the suburbs, and yeah, I think it'd be quite. I think I'd be all right. Quite near the sea as well. That's not
that's
bad.
always good.
Some people like, because if you try and move, I don't know, you're always at risk, aren't you? So,
You are.
all the roads are going to be shut and
Yeah, for
blocked
sure.
off, and
Yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
yeah, I just
And
take my
the traffic
chances.
jams just become, swarms of zombies, basically, don't they?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I predict that the next couple of like interviews will be like, Brexit.
Yeah,
It's probably going to be that, isn't it?
land
Like,
that one. Yeah,
get the milk in, sit it out, wait for it all to blow over in the Winchester, pretty much.
yeah. Slice of gold. Excellent. Fantastic.
Uh-huh.
And then at the end of today's interview, we'll ask you what weapon, tool, or useful item you'll be
Ooh,
using, but we'll keep that for
yeah.
later.
Okay.
So, starting off, um, so the apocalypse is kind of, it's a bit specific in terms of asking what comics that you're going to take into the apocalypse.
Mm.
And the first question that your group in the apocalypse asks you is, what's the first comic you remember enjoying?
This is a very specific survivors group.
They are really, really picky.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Okay.
specific. And if you don't pass the test, then you're out of the group, basically.
Well, I think I might have like wrong-footed myself already because I was like, I'll be honest. I'll just be honest with my likes and what my first comic was
No,
instead of trying to
honesty's
be
the best
cool.
policy,
So
definitely.
I remember as a child, I used to get the first comics I got were like the only manga I could really get a hold of from places like Forbidden Planet.
Mm.
So it was all the stuff that like Dark Horse translated and brought out as singles. So a lot of it was like inappropriate. Like one of my answers later will come up that was basically like, a lot of gore. But I think the first one I really remember reading avidly was probably Dragon Ball. Um, that
Great.
was the first one, I think. And yeah, and it was the kind of thing as well where, it was literally just what you could get hold of.
Yeah.
So it's like I teach workshops with kids in the summer in the library in Welsh libraries. And
Right.
seriously, they'll talk about reading comic like manga online and you can just get everything. And
Yeah.
there's this weird thing that like surely it was the same for you as well,
Mm.
that back in the day it was like this is all I could get, so I could get like 2, 24, and 50. Like those are the only issues I can find in my shop. That's kind of an
That.
alien thing now, right?
Oh
It's
yeah,
quite,
yeah, yeah. Everything's accessible now.
yeah.
It's completely changed things,
Mm,
really. For good and bad, probably.
mm.
But
I think a really cool thing that's just happened is I think Shonen Jump, you can subscribe to them for like 1, 2 quid or something, and you can
yeah,
access their entire back catalogue, which is pretty amazing.
that's
I might have
insane,
to,
isn't it?
yeah, and that's
There's lots of that kind of popping up now, and it's just like it's cheap as chips to kind of
yeah.
get good content,
So
essentially.
so kids now, when you're like,
Oh,
no, you can't access that. Like you would have to, you'd have to actively search for that in like long boxes. It wouldn't just be there. That's such like an alien concept.
yeah. We'd have to climb
What?
mountains. We'd have
Yeah.
to, mine for them. All sorts. You don't know how lucky you are, kids these days.
Kids these days.
So what was it about Dragon Ball that you first enjoyed? You know.
It's so exuberant. It's
Hmm.
a few, like, as a child, having not seen manga or anime or anything like that before, like, I think it was at the right time as well, because I think, I was about 9, 10, 11 when it was really becoming a thing over in the West, in the UK at least.
Hmm.
That it was becoming a little bit more slightly easier to find, and I was kind of on the cusp of that with like Dragon Ball and Pokemon, and we were just getting translated shonen. I think they just started translating like the big shonen jumps then, but I'm not entirely sure.
Right, yeah.
So yeah, it was just that it was so different, and I'd never seen anything like that before.
Well, no,
And
you wouldn't have.
no, and like I just liked, and especially when getting into more manga, like later on, I'd read Dragon Ball Z and that kind of thing. The stories were so different. It was always just like an intense, like it's because after reading things like Beano and that kind of thing
Oh,
as a
well,
child,
chalk and cheese.
yeah,
Really.
it's like it's an actual story.
Yeah,
What?
yeah,
Like
exactly.
I'm investing in these people. What's going on?
And they're doing crazy stuff, not just kind of being
What?
general menaces.
I think I talked about this on a couple of panels actually,
Right.
when looking back at Dragon Ball as well, because whew, it's inappropriate, man.
They don't hold back. Put it that way.
Wow, you see a lot of Goku and a lot of Bulma, and just this is not a children's manga, really. Come
No.
on, it's
Well,
yeah.
it seems kind of, manga, they don't really have age restrictions on stuff so much. They're just like, whatever,
It's fine.
you'll
It's a
come across
joke.
that eventually anyway.
Fine. This is fine. It's all right. Don't worry about it.
Exactly.
Anyway, he's just gonna, carry on fighting, punching robots. It's
Yeah,
great.
it's all good. It's all good. Fantastic. So their second question, again, really specific. This group of kind of apocalypse survivors. So what's the funniest or comic that made you laugh out loud the most?
So this one is, I think, the only independent one that I've got on the list. So
Mm,
I should have thought harder, but yeah, this is legitimately probably the funniest comic I've ever read. Just because it just speaks to me.
right.
And it's called The Legend of Val. It's a web comic, but I
Yeah.
think it'll count in the Apocalypse because they do print it as well.
Oh,
It's
there you
by
go.
it's by
Perfect.
Kimberly Fountain and Emily Clapham, and it's basically just about these two girls who have to pay rent,
Yeah.
and so they have to, so they're looking for one of their mothers who is the eponymous Val.
Oh, right, right.
So and they're aided by their cat, who is massive and speaks like Frasier. So he talks. And then also their friend who acts like a cat, who's a guy who just acts like a cat. No explanation, that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
And
Why not?
yeah, I talked to them about it at a con, and it's basically like a story that they've written since they were teenagers and just passed
Really?
back and forth to each other. And so it's just mad. It really makes me laugh. I think I bonded with Kim talking about Frasier
Yeah.
and that kind of thing. So
Brilliant.
it's really silly. I think the last one I read, I need to catch up. The last one I read, they did a murder mystery,
Okay.
and they had all of these different people, and one of them, I need to try and remember what all the characters are called. Father Fresh, who was like a DJ. He was like
Fresh.
yeah, he was a no, he's not a DJ. He's a priest, and
Yeah.
he's just lying out on the floor with a boombox behind him, and just
Wow.
no explanation. It's just all these really silly throwaway jokes. I'm really not doing it justice. It's fantastic, but that
Oh,
always
it sounds like
legitimately
fun.
makes
Where,
me
where,
laugh.
where can people find that?
I'll have to have a look. You can, if you just look for Legend of Val online, it will come up. So it's Legend and then of Val, which is just VAL.
Yeah.
So I think it's just that.com.
Yeah, the legendofval.com. There
Yeah,
you
and
go, nice and simple.
sure.
Yeah.
And then when I type it in, Legend of Valkyrie comes up. That is not what it is.
No.
Yes, It is legendofval.com. So
Great.
yeah, if you Google it, it'll all come up. But yeah, I really recommend it. I think you can read it online for free, but they kickstart each issue as well. So
Oh, fantastic! So you can get the print and support them as well.
so funny. Oh my God.
Brilliant.
I try and recommend it to as many people as possible because
Are there any other specific moments that really kind of just made you
oh,
laugh out loud?
people getting hypnotized by a custard cream. Someone
I
else
think that
gets
happens on
sucked
a
into a
daily basis.
painting. Yeah, it's a jammy dodger.
I get it,
It's a jammy
that makes
dodger.
more sense actually.
Yeah, because
However
it's
weird that sounds, that actually makes more sense.
yeah, right. So, like at one point, one of them stumbles across like this group of she's kind of like it's like Gulliver's Travels, but
Right.
they're all playing football, and she becomes a star because she's massive, and it's like with the Lilliputians, is that how
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Lilliputians?
That's right.
It's like she's playing football with all these tiny people, and then it comes to a horrible end when she squishes one of them. But
Oh
yeah,
no.
that's just really bizarre.
That sounds funny though.
It's great. It's just yeah, you can
Full of
see that
lots of
they've
giggles.
just yeah, it's really good. I'll stop gushing now, embarrassingly.
No, that's great. That sounds brilliant. I'm gonna have to check that out for sure. Excellent. So, question number 4 is what's the saddest or most upsetting comic? So, sorry to go kind of from one end of the scale to the other,
Wow.
go from funny to sad, but
Yeah, it's just in case you need a little pick
just
me up in
yeah,
that
just to bring
apocalypse,
you down.
just to bring you just a little bit more down. The world has
Yeah,
ended, and also here's some depression.
yeah. It's like, well, things could be worse.
Yeah. Well, I tried to think of something that would make me cry, and I don't know. I couldn't think of a comic that really made me
Mm,
weep. I could think of like series. So I remember crying at like Avatar: The Last Airbender. I cried at that.
sure.
I
Yeah.
tried at
I
like I
get that.
cried. Oh, the Tales of Ba Sing Se every time. It
Oh,
always just oh,
brutal.
oh, oh, it's terrible.
Pulls at the
But
heartstrings.
yeah, but in terms of comics, I kind of went for the more upsetting.
Mm.
So this was one of the titles that I really should not have been reading as a child.
Oh, you
But
read this as a child?
yes,
Like
I
how old?
say a child. I was about maybe like 11,
Right.
11,
Okay.
12.
Okay.
Far too young,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it was just, it was manga and it was in singles and, I was like, oh,
Exactly.
I'll give it a try. And it looked beautiful.
Yeah,
And this was
totally.
Blade of the Immortal by Hiroaki Samura.
Epic.
And yeah, have you read it?
I have not read it. However, with your answers, I checked it out, and the art is stunning.
It's amazing. It's
You know,
he
it's
works in
wow.
pencil.
The detail is
Mm.
insane.
It's incredible. It's
Yeah.
absolutely beautiful. But and it's a real epic. So the
Mm.
basic premise is it's this guy who is immortal. He is the Blade of the Immortal. But
Yeah.
he has these kind of worms inside him. So when you cut him, the worms like regenerate his body.
Ah, right.
Um yeah, and he meets this girl called Rin who is trying to avenge her family, and the two of them go on this huge journey to track down this like Ronin and this group of Ronin who are trying to unite Japan under one school of swordsmanship, and it's this huge epic with lots of intrigue. The reason that I found it like quite upsetting is just it is brutal. People die all the time, and I remember vividly there's like this this chunk of the story where Manji, who's the main character with all the worms,
Mm.
is basically just getting experimented on, and Rin has to try and save him, and it's just the most stressful bit of reading.
Oh my
Just because,
gosh.
oh, it's horrible. The things that they do, it's just very, very grim. But I won't ruin. It's quite a long story. It has ended,
Oh
and
right.
I won't ruin it. But
Mm.
the ending does one of those like time jump things. And
Mm.
that was quite like, oh God, because it's quite. I always find those really like bittersweet when it's like, let's look back in time. All the stuff we did didn't really matter, did it? Okay. You're like,
Yeah.
oh God, okay. Life is fleeting. It's kind of that kind of ending. But I recommend it. But yeah, the ending is very it's very, very bittersweet. But yeah, it's very
Oh.
worth a look.
Well, I mean, endings are the most difficult thing, I think. Like, particularly if it's because
Mm.
how long is that series?
goodness, it's quite long. It's not as long as something like One Piece or something like that. It's not like
Yeah,
700 issues or whatever. It's
yeah.
I think it went up to about 150 chapters, something like
Very,
that.
very substantial. And
Substantial.
yeah,
But for a manga, not crazy,
yeah, yeah. Well, that's a good point. Yeah, for manga, that's
Yeah.
probably average.
Mm.
But yeah, I mean, it's really difficult to like have a truly kind of satisfying ending, I guess, isn't it?
I think it was quite impressive though, because you read a lot of these stories where, if it's published in something like Shonen Jump or one of these monthlies, you have to keep spinning it out for as long as your editor wants you to. So that's when you read something like, as great as they are, something like One Piece or Bleach or Naruto, they do have these chapters where it's like, I'm just going to repeat what happened, 50 chapters ago. No one will notice. Whereas Blade of the Immortal, really, I don't remember there being big patches of story like that. It's very, it seems very well planned out.
Yeah, there was truly a start and a
Yeah,
finish and everything.
yeah.
And something like One Piece, I believe, I can't remember the guy's name, but
Eiichiro Oda,
yeah,
I
there you
think.
go.
Yeah.
But he said, I think that he's got an ending, and he's had an ending since the beginning, but he's just keeping it going,
Wow.
basically.
There's a really
Yeah.
depressing fact about Eiichiro Oda, which
Oh, really?
is that, sorry, just to bring you down during the apocalypse as well, that there was this timetable that went round on the internet that was anonymous at first, saying
Okay.
this is what the week of a manga artist looks like. And it was literally, I don't know if you've seen it, but it literally, he had about 4 hours sleep, and the rest of it was just like drawing, 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 drawing. Like, I meet with my editor for like an
my
hour
gosh.
on Friday, and I get assistance in for maybe 6 hours every 2 days or something like that.
Oh my
And
gosh.
it was just, it was basically meant to be put out there to freak out Westerners who say, I'm going to go to Japan and become a manga artist. It was like, no, this is what it is. It's completely unhealthy and untenable. And
Exactly. You
everyone
don't
was
want to
like,
do that.
and it was anonymous, and everyone was like, well, it's obviously just someone who's just starting out. And it came out that no, this was Eiichiro Oda, who is the biggest selling manga artist and most successful manga artist, for a very long time. I don't know of all time, but I think
Yeah.
globally he sold the most out of any other
I think
manga.
it's like 400 million copies he sold or
Yeah.
something like that.
So
Something crazy.
even he has a schedule that just that
Is
would make you cry.
unenvious. Like I
Mm,
wouldn't fancy that. And yeah, as you say, it's pretty unhealthy. So be
mm,
prepared if you plan on moving to Japan to become
mm.
a manga artist.
Look after yourself.
Yeah, do
Yeah.
you really do have to, because otherwise it'll bite you, won't it?
Mm.
And talking about kind of terrifying things, the next question on the specifics of being part of this group of the apocalypse is what's the scariest or most horrifying comic?
Again, if you need an escape from everyday life of looking outside your door and seeing tons of zombies tearing human beings apart, I kind of cheated on this one a little bit
Mm,
because the one I sent you was Through the Woods, the
yeah.
Emily Carroll comic, which
Mm.
is beautiful. I actually got a copy over Christmas, so it's one of the most recent comics I've read actually.
Great.
And it's about 4 or 5 stories.
Mm.
And I don't know if you have you seen Emily Carroll's. Have you read it?
I
This
have not
comic.
read it, but I've looked at the art. Yeah.
It's beautiful, really, 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 just amazing. It's the kind of art that you look at and go, oh,
Yes.
jeez.
It's cool. Like
Why do I try?
like it flows. Like
Yes.
there's like it's like a river or something.
And that, like, each of the stories has quite a different tone. So,
Mm.
I think they span different eras of time. There's one about there's kind of a body snatching one with again, what is it about worms in these stories? It's like people get replaced by big colonies of worms, and it's just it's disgusting.
Wow.
And yeah, and about people disappearing into the woods. And again, yeah, kind of body snatching or not body swapping. What am I thinking of? What's that film? The Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Yeah,
Oh right, yeah, there you
like
go.
that kind of a story. But it's worth it just for the art. The thing is, though, as much as I liked it and it is a horror comic, I
Yeah.
didn't find it wasn't the kind of thing that haunted me. It was more I look back on and thought, that was a good fable. If I was honest and said what actually haunted me afterwards, this is not a print comic, so I don't know whether it would exist during the apocalypse. It is only online, and it is called Bong Cheong Dong Ghost. Have you seen it?
I have not. This sounds interesting. Go on.
It is if you search for Korean ghost comic,
Wow.
and you can search for it on YouTube as well. You can watch people playing it and
All
or
right.
reading it. And I won't spoil it for you, but there are flash elements to this comic, and you are meant to scroll through it.
Right.
And honestly, it is.
It's kind of like Spindly Man,
there is
kind of
sound.
Slender Man, kind of scary.
Yeah, kind of. It's not really. Yeah, it's just if you have. It says at the beginning, if you have heart problems, seriously, if you can't handle jumps, do
Wow.
not look at this. But I can't look at it. It's very the art. Unfortunately, most of this artist's work is in Korean. I think they've only translated 2 of them, but they are the animated ones. And there's another one. It's a similar one about a ghost on a train station. That he's done as well. But this one, it's a ghost. There's a girl walking home from school, and she can just see this weird figure in the distance that's walking really strangely. And that's all I'll say.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Tenterhooks.
Oh, what's that? Oh. And it's just and yeah, the artwork's really nice, and I think it was published in about 2006 or 2007, and it's actually held up really well, so yeah, it's pretty. So if we can access the internet during the apocalypse, then
you could do that, or what you could do, you could kind of print it off and kind of like do a flip book.
And have someone going the sound effects on it.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
No. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. What was it called again?
I can't speak Korean. It is Bong Cheon Dong Ghost. But if you search for Korean ghost comic, it should pop up. And it's by Horang, Horang. That's the artist. But so I think probably what I would do is I would take Through the Woods with me into the apocalypse. Yeah. But this would be the comic that haunted me even past the apocalypse.
Well past that. Like zombie apocalypse, that's easy.
Yeah.
But,
We can see that creepy woman walking down the street.
Epic. So, getting into kind of more meaningful questions now. The Apocalypse group are asking, so what's the most meaningful comic to you? Hi guys, Samuel here. Just wanted to interrupt halfway through this episode to acknowledge the slight echo that you might be hearing on Sarah's end of the interview. I'm not entirely sure how that happened, but it did. I tried to clean it up as much as I could, but I didn't want to muck about with the audio too much. However, I just wanted to say that from next week, it should be absolutely fine. So thanks for your patience, and on with the show.
So this one is more when I realised that I wanted to be an illustrator and I wanted to tell stories. Right. So I really enjoyed like the Sandman comic itself. Like, it is an epic tale, and it's kind of I think it was the first time I was really introduced to Neil Gaiman as a writer. Is it Gaiman or Gaiman?
I think it's Gaiman.
It is, right? Yeah. Okay. I should have worked that out years ago, but
so good.
But yeah,
it's kind of like people say for Mark Miller, they say Mark Millar because it's AR rather than ER. Well, I think that's mostly Americans, but hey,
just make it sound extra fancy. Millar World.
Yeah.
Millar World. Yeah. Yes.
Anyway,
yeah. So I enjoyed the Sandman comics. And again, it was one of those things of I was reading it as a child, so it was literally what I could find. So
Yeah.
what I could get in the library, and because I was poor, and also if I could what I could borrow off my friends as well. So but this one it's the story that Neil Gaiman and Yoshitaka Amano
Mhm.
did called Sandman the Dream Hunters. And again, it's kind of stretching the definition of a comic. I'm saying that it's a comic because it's related to a comic series
Yeah.
and it's published by Dark Horse. So, you know, but
It,
it's sorry.
there's art, there's words,
Yeah,
there's a
exactly.
story.
Yeah. And the uh Morpheus is in it,
There you
so
go.
yeah. But yeah, it's like a fable. So it's one of these kitsune. It's a fox falls in love with a monk, but she is a kitsune and she can change into a woman. It's basically their ill-fated romance and how yeah, and lots of the Sandman um uh characters pop up in it as well. I think was it the
Right.
Fates? Do they call them the Fates or the Moirai
I
or
think
the
that's right.
women? Yeah, the three women they pop up in it as well. But it's just so elegantly illustrated by so Yoshitaka Amano, he illustrated the Final Fantasy games as well,
Mm.
and it's really great marriage of these two creators because his artwork is really dreamlike as well. And I just remember reading it, and it just I don't know the his words and Gaiman's words and Amano's artwork just it was everything that I wanted to be able to create. And
Yeah.
it just reminds me, when you read something and it really puts you back in time to a specific point in your life.
Yeah.
And this is one of those. So I think, I read it when I was a teenager, and I bought it and took it with me to uni. And it's one of those books that I've always like treasured. Even as I grew older and I kind of found other things that inspired me more, I still always go back to that. It's like, an important story to me.
Amazing. So that was kind of really the genesis of you thinking, well, I'm going to make a career of this.
Maybe not a career, it's just, oh, I'd love to do that. I didn't believe that I could make a career at anything until well
Right.
into like I think I did a foundation in art, and then I was like, I can't do art. I'm not very good, am I? So I'm going to
Oh,
go and study film. And I lasted for about 2 weeks studying film
right.
before I dropped out and went and did illustration, because it was less that I thought I can make a career in this and more I can't really survive making myself doing something else. If that
Mm.
makes sense. Like it felt that if I was gonna really make a go of going to uni and trying something, it may as well be something that I love.
Mm.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Too right. Follow your passions.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So the next question they ask is what's the most underrated comic?
I don't know whether this is underrated. I think it's more that a lot of people that I talk to haven't heard of it,
Yeah.
probably because it's a manga as well. So I've made little notes next to all of these. And I've put like most unassuming, I think, because in terms of
Yeah.
it's not very loud, it's a very chilled out comic as well. But have you heard of it before I sent it to you?
I hadn't heard of it, no.
Yeah, there we go.
But I'm fascinated by it, so yeah, there you go.
Oh, it's fantastic. It's called Yotsuba, and it's got a little ampersand at the end. And I've seen it like romanized as Yotsubato. So I don't know
Right.
whether it's Yotsuba Plus or I always just call it Yotsuba. And it's basically just about this little girl and her dad and their everyday life. And that is it. And it's how it's meant for adults, and it's
Mm.
just a really innocent story. So there's, for example, one story is just about Yotsuba discovering a camera and what she likes taking pictures of. And then she makes friends with all of like her neighbors, and she makes friends with the person who sells her a bike. And she just shows all her pictures to all these people and takes pictures with them and all this stuff. And you kind of see it from everybody's perspective. So
Okay.
it spans a huge generation of people. So there's Yotsuba, who's maybe like about, I don't know, she's just before going to school, so she's maybe about 4 or 5. And then her dad is probably about 30. But then there's her
Mm.
grandparent, there's a grandmother as well. And it's all these different people who all kind of, and how they intersect with her life. And it's really funny as well. It's just, if you ever just want to chill out and you want to read something that's really light and yet happy and just, there's no horrible edge to it. It's just very like I can't remember what the Japanese word for it, but it just, I think is I'm going to play this game called Ryutama tomorrow, which has the same kind of feeling. It's a tabletop game.
Yeah.
It's the same kind of feeling of just happiness and just, no strings attached. There's no like hidden agenda,
No.
It's just, it is what it is. And, sometimes it's nice to just read something like that. And I think for the apocalypse, it would be really great.
Yeah, you need that kind of downtime and escape from actual reality of getting eaten by a zombie.
Yeah. Just want to, hang out with this lovely family as, Yotsuba sees fireworks for the first time. Great!
I wish I had fireworks.
Oh, God.
I just want to say ooh and ah.
And not, ah!
Yeah, exactly. Do the opposite. Fantastic. And how long has that been going, do you know?
Oh, quite a long time. It's been translated. Yeah. The translation into English is pretty much up to speed now, and they've just released 14-ish, volume 14.
Yeah, volume. Yeah.
So, I think about like 2008. The artist, he used to do Azumanga Daioh, something. What's his name? Kiyohiko Azuma. So yes, I think it's gone on since the early 2000s. I think. But
fantastic. There's a substantial library there.
Yes, yeah, and all of them are it's just really just lovely, really lovely books. So you can jump in at any time.
Yeah,
it's not a running story. You can pick up any of them, and
that's great.
So that's nice. So yeah,
brilliant. And then probably one of their most important questions they ask: objectively, the best comic of all time.
Now, I don't think you can objectively have a best comic. I don't think you can.
It's tough.
When I was typing this out, I was like, I'm such a fraud. Because I know other people are going to say, they're going to think of these amazing titles. I'm going to go, shit, why didn't I put that one? I just think, I can put in Akira or, the Watchmen or some stuff like that. I'm like, I should put something more substantial in. But honestly, I think this could probably have gone under the last question as well. But personally, I think one of the most perfect comics I've read that I've thought I don't think you can improve on this at all, is Amazing. The Arrival by Sean Tan. So it's a completely silent comic. There are no words, and it's all illustrated in pencil. It looks beautiful, and I don't think it's ever been more relevant to the world as it is now, because it's all about immigration. So have you read it, or have you seen it?
I had not read it, and I hadn't heard of it before. Amazingly, so it was really good to kind of just do a little bit of research on it before and kind of look into it. So I'm planning to buy it in the next week or so and check it out.
It's beautiful. It's basically it's about a family that are, I think it's because it's wordless, they never explain it. It's very like you don't know. He's a refugee, and they're all refugees, and they're all escaping to this new town, and how they settle in. And the way that he illustrates it is that this new place is full of fantastical creatures and alien, landscapes. So it's a really good illustration of what it would be like to be a refugee in a different country. So it's just I think I could have put this under any one of these, apart from the horrible scary question, because it did make me cry. It's got funny bits in it as well, and it's beautiful. But I think most of Sean Tan's work is just fantastic.
Epic.
But really beautifully illustrated. But I think this is the one that he's most well known for. But so I'm sure most people will disagree, because I disagree with you that you could objectively have the best comic. God, really?
Wow,
it's like what is objectively the best film or the best book, or I don't know.
Yeah, I know it's really, really, really tough.
And would you actually sit down and watch Citizen Kane all the time? Like, don't be, be honest with yourself.
I objectively would say that is not the best film of all time.
People always say that is, though. What would you say is objectively the best film, then?
Yeah. Well, that's really, really difficult. And I guess it's just trying to put I guess, kind of well-reasoned thought behind it, and kind of why. And I mean, like you were kind of saying there, that um, the arrival for you has the moments of the questions that kind of I was asking before, in terms of
Yeah.
there are scary moments in it, there are sad moments in it, there are funny moments in it, but it's a meaningful comic, and kind of that whole mishmash of emotions creates a great comic, I guess.
It's kind of the titles as well that you're like, oh my goodness, you have to read this. Like when you meet someone who hasn't read it before, hasn't seen it, and kind of the book that you always go back to over time as well. Because I was thinking about putting in some of Jen Wang's stuff in as well. You know, she did In Real Life and The Prince and the Dressmaker, but I've only just come across that work in the past couple of years, and so I really enjoy it now, but I'm not sure how I'm going to feel in a couple of years' time. Whereas this one, I remember picking it up in uni, which was, oh goodness, about it was 10 years ago, 12 years ago, and yeah, and it's just I've kept going back to it, and I keep recommending it to people, so you know that is something that you're always going to draw on, and that's always going to be an inspiration, I suppose. But yeah.
And it's going to be there,
Yeah.
until it's not, because the group that you're part of, we're going on the road, and you got to get rid of all your comics but one.
No.
Which one of the ones you've chosen? Which one do you choose?
You have to. They have. It's winter, and we've run out of fuel, and we have to burn everything apart from one.
Burn everything.
No.
You're allowed to keep one. That's the rule.
Okay. All right. Well, again, I thought I'd be 100% honest and go for what am I going to read the most and what is going to cheer me up the most, and it would be Yotsuba, just because it's not necessarily that it's the most like the greatest piece of art. It's really good, and I recommend it to everybody. But it's not like this is the touchstone of artwork for the history of the 21st century or anything like that. It's literally just, if you're honest and what you'd read the most and what would bring you the most joy, then I suppose Yotsuba, because I really like. This is a bit of a confession. I really like relaxing by reading manga in the bath. That is my favorite thing to do. If I want to relax, that is what I do. And the book that I always pick out the most, or one of the series that I always pick the most, is Yotsuba.
Yeah.
And just sitting in there with a bath bomb, reading Yotsuba, and then, trying not to fall asleep because you're so relaxed.
It's like, repeatedly watching Gavin and Stacey or The Office or whatever, Like, you've watched it a million times, but you're going to enjoy it.
Yeah, exactly. And just, you don't want to bring in you don't want to bring in The Arrival to the bath, because if it falls in the bath, you'd cry. Or, any of your other, big, massive comic books, Whereas manga is small and, it's quite inexpensive. So if the pages get, fall in the bath, then that's okay. You can just get another one.
Or not. We're in the apocalypse, Sarah.
Oh no!
Sugar.
What about bath and manga time?
I reckon you can still probably have a bath now and again, but it will probably be lukewarm. Like the water wouldn't be much. It'd take ages.
There's no point.
No, there isn't really, is there? It's just just wash under the armpits, right? Let's go.
I was talking to Sian Jefferson, and she was saying that her boyfriend likes to have cold baths, and I was like, "Are you insane? What is that? And cold showers?" And I was just like, "What?" And apparently, it's great for your circulation. It's really good for you. But I was just like, yeah, sure. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, I'm not going to do that.
Still not going to do it, though.
Yeah, exactly. Unless I'm forced to do it.
Right. Unless it is a zombie apocalypse and there is no other way to get clean, then that's not going to happen.
No, thank you. That's so crazy. But he actually enjoys it?
Yeah, because it's good. Yeah, he enjoys it, and he says that it's good for you.
It is good for you.
It wakes you up.
There's lots of things that are good for you that I don't enjoy.
It's good. He says it wakes him up, and it gives it's good circulation. But I was like, okay, you're braver than me.
Fair enough, mate. Whatever floats your boat. So, going back to the original, what I said at the beginning. So, what weapon, tool, or useful item would you like to take into the apocalypse?
So, This is going to be incredibly boring, but long life milk.
Boom.
Yeah. Or actually, for me, it would be long life soy milk,
Yeah,
But
there you go.
yeah, because,
That's good.
everything is going to shit.
Right.
Everyone's upset. And you just think, and there's, people are just like, I just want a lovely cup of tea. If only we had some milk. And then you arrive going, aha, but I
Boom.
do. Here we go. You know,
Got crates of soy milk.
yeah, there you go.
Amazing.
Sorted.
All sorted.
You know,
That's sorted for ages,
just to
right?
pick you out just a little.
How long
Yeah,
does it last? I'm thinking.
quite a long time.
Yeah, definitely a long time, like a
Yeah,
year or like longer or
yeah, I think
like a couple
so.
of years probably. And you
Just
like
regular soy lasts a
you
long time.
yeah, totally. And you'd
Mm.
kind of I don't know, even if it was out of date, you'd still have it for like a year.
For sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
because I was talking to my
You wouldn't
parents and
fuss.
they were like, oh, I need to get in some, just in case we get the snow again, because, we had that snow in March
Yeah.
that just shut down the country. They're like, we need to get in some more, get in some long life milk, get in some long life milk. And I was like, yep, that's what you need. Everybody wants tea,
Boom.
That is the worst because they told me last
No-brainer.
time in March, they were like, yeah, it was awful, it was awful. We couldn't have any tea. So there we go.
It
They were
was the
my,
end of the world.
yeah.
That's their apocalypse, right?
Yeah, right? So that was my inspiration for this question.
Fantastic. Brilliant. Well, Sarah Millman, thank you so much for sharing the comics that you take into the apocalypse,
Oh, thank you.
as well as your useful item, soy milk. That's well, you're always going to be kind of on the top of people's like favorite lists. Like you'll be going around like the campfire and kind of topping up everybody's tea and stuff. So
Or
yeah,
coffee.
that's
Oh,
nice. Yeah,
coffee, should you
coffee, whatever.
require?
Yeah, definitely.
Anybody want some cereal? You know.
Yeah. Blub, 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 blub. That was my impression of soy milk being
It was
poured.
excellent. It was very good.
Yeah, I try. Fantastic. And then for the listeners, one last time, where can people find out more about what you're up to?
Cool. So they can find me on Twitter at heart_of_time or www.heartoftime.co.uk. So yeah, that's all my links and all my
Check it out.
information there.
Fantastic. And then do you have anything coming up soon?
Oh, I have a lot coming up
Being
soon.
released? Great.
So I'm finishing up NPCT, which is my comic at the moment.
Yes.
In
Which I have all issues at the moment. Thanks very much. And I thoroughly enjoy.
Thanks. So that's
Trying
finishing.
to get my wife to read them now.
Oh, well, it's
Yeah.
finishing. I'm aiming for the spring. It should be before around June is like my cutoff point that I have to finish everything. But yeah, so that's this half of the year pretty much. It's all elves and orcs and tea.
Awesome. I love it. I think it's great.
Oh, thank
Such a
you.
cool idea and yeah, a lot of fun.
Oh, thanks.
Oh, no
And
worries, dude.
yeah, thank you for having me. It's been fun.
Oh, it's my pleasure, and again, thank you for being the first ever guest that's stepped up to the plate to go into the apocalypse with a backpack of comics. Fantastic. Yeah, well, are you at True Believers?
Yes, I am. I've done no
Fantastic.
prep for it so far. So this next
Wing
next
it.
week is going to be reordering lots of comics and
Yes.
yeah, getting everything ready, I think. So yes, I shall be.
Ditto. Yes, as shall I. So
Oh, brilliant.
I'll give you a high five then.
Yeah. I'll see you
Amazing.
then.
Perfect. All right, Sarah. Thanks a lot.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks again to Sarah for being the very first guest on Comics for the Apocalypse. I hope you all enjoyed it as much as I did. If you'd like to check out Sarah's work or follow her on social media, those links are in the show notes. And as long as the apocalypse doesn't come to pass in the next week, I'll see you next Monday. Bye for now.